Alright, so since there are some new units that came out in global version, I want to talk about a tier list video. Now, this is going to be basically a, PvP based tier list, just because I want to talk about what new units are good, what kind of teams you can run on this. So this is going to be very controversial. You guys can let me know in the comments below where you guys would rank units as well. But these are the couple units I'm talking about that can be pretty helpful in the game. Right now, currently, the new 2 units that just came out are Gowther and Galland. Those 2 you will see a lot in PvP right now. So you can see that they're in the God tier listing. So the main 7 units you're seeing in the God tier listing are the ones that are going to be seen a lot in PvP. So that's why I listed them there. Now SS tier, you will see some of these units still being used as well. If you want to see, a DN, that's basically being an ult rush where they're going to try ulting you as fast as possible. Hauser, if you're going to be seeing a red team, so you can see Hauser on that as well. Hauser is really good because he's an AoE, so he can attack everyone, which is really good. Gowther, I kind of don't know where to really put him. I put him in SS tier just because, he isn't the best. He's only good for his passive. So if I would put him in the God tier, I don't think that's a really good, statement. So I put him in SS tier for that reason. So the thing about these top units, which are probably going to be running PvP for a little bit, are that one thing is, literally, it's the most insane unit right now, Gowther. So Gowther, the reason why is because his rank up. So he ranks up all his allies' cards, skill cards, which is the biggest thing in the game. So he's finally out in global, so you'll see him doing that a lot. Now the other thing is, since he does do that, there's one unit that can actually counter that. So it's going to be Galland. This is why Galland came out. So when you see his commandment, he petrifies allies and enemies who have used rank up and rank down skills for 2 turns. So the fact that Gowther does this, it basically backfires with Galland. Now, there has been really good teams that you can run right now. This might sound crazy, but you can actually run this team right here. You can have a Arthur, Gowther, Galland, and Merlin. So these 4 units right here would be a really good team to be running right now. Now, the reason why I say that is because, these 2 units will fight against each other, but this is where Arthur comes in. So when you look at Arthur right here, as if you can get to his 3-star buff, which if you have his 2-star at the beginning of the turn and you already rank up, Gowther to rank up at least 1 skill rank to get this Arthur to 3-star. This 3-star removes debuffs from all allies, and he increases basic stats by 30%, and he grants debuffs immunity for 3 turns. So basically, if you use the 3-star buff from Arthur, Galland's commandment will not work against Gowther. So then you can literally just fight against your enemy without having to worry about being petrified. So that's why Arthur is a very good unit to have right now on the team, just because of that reason. And Arthur can do some pretty crazy damage as well, just because his first skill can disable recovery skills, which is very useful. And then of course having a pretty decent damage percentage is really good for him. Galland, though, on the other hand, Galland, he attacks all, right? So he can attack all with his 2nd skill, and he also makes a person bleed too, so he does additional damage at the end of every turn. So he can be very useful for that, and then his first skill can do a lot of damage, just because Amplify, damage dealt plus 30% per active buff on self. So the more buffs he has, the more he'll do, of course. So especially when you have Arthur, if you have Arthur in your team, you can actually buff your units, and that's how you can do a lot more damage as well. So units like this will be very good to see on PvP, which is why I rank them this high. And then of course when you have Merlin's just good because she fills all allies' ultimate gauge move by one orb at the start of the battle, and then she can also take away ultimate move gauge orbs, which is very, very good. And then the perfect cube, which is basically like a defense barrier, so basically gives you like an extra health defense, I guess, if you want to put it that way. So that's very, very good for her. So that's why I listed those 4 in God tier, as well as having Blue King. Of course, Blue King is like one of the best units because of the petrifying, and he can heal as well. So he's a very good support unit to have. So I ranked him in God tier. Now, these 2 units, I keep them on God tier just because you can still run them as a mono green team. So you can have Jericho or Bond on a team, right? Or with Merlin. That's 3 units plus Gowther. If you want to put Gowther in here, you can. These 4 units right here are very, very good. Now, if you have Jericho, you can basically do a one-shot with Jericho just because of how insane she is. Now, she has, of course, her 2nd skill and then her 1st skill. She's just going to do a lot of damage. That's her main usage, so you will see that some people will run Jericho, but at this point, I mean, you will see a lot of other players using other teams now too. So I mean, like I'm saying, these 4 units right here, the main 4 top units, are probably gonna be the units you're gonna see a lot in PvP. So I would say these three right here mainly would be like a good meta, and then having Merlin in the back would be really good. So having units like this, I mean, that's why I listed in there. Then you have Bond, and of course Bond is just an AoE, and he can take away attack and defense with his extort, which is huge when it comes to PvP. So that's why I still ranked him in God tier. So he'll still be there for a little bit. I don't know how much longer until like someone's gonna replace him, but for now, Galland is going to be in God tier until Escanor drops. So green Escanor is right here. Once he drops, then you'll see that, you know, Galland is useless at that point. So for now, I'm leaving it as God tier for what currently global is. So I'm going to leave it there. Now, when you have Deanne, of course, she is really good for her ultimates, just because she can attack all. Hauser is good because he attacks all. Elizabeth is very good because she can attack all as well, so I left her at SS tier. Then you have Gowther for the PvP 30% boost for defense. That's why I left him there. But other usage, I mean, he's good for everything else too, but for PvP base right now, I think it's good for SS tier. This red Bond is actually not bad. He does basically the same stuff as the Jericho, I believe. If I remember correctly, he's the one who does the same kind of like attack stuff. So I can actually look at it right now just because I was curious about this unit, and I did try him out before, so you can look at him. So he does, okay, so he does weak point, right? So 3 times damage against debuffed enemies. His second skill decreases skill rank. So when you look at the first skill, right, compared to Jericho, she also does weak point, so she's basically the same kind of style. The bleed is an additional 80%, and then it just decreases skill rank. So his first skill does the same thing basically, so he can do some pretty crazy damage, which is good to know. But I would leave him only at a S tier, just because I don't think he should be higher than that. SS tier, I think that's just pushing it for him. So that's where I leave him there. This SR Elizabeth and Hawk, she can do good damage if you make sure that she doesn't get attacked, right? Because of her passive. Her passive, of course, gives her a 10% boost whenever she isn't attacked, basically. So if she doesn't take damage, you know, she'll boost her basic stats by 10%, which is really good. Now, her first skill attack, of course, she can charge, which ignores defense. And the more damage she does with this, or the higher the damage, the more stars and stuff like that, the more damage she'll do. So her first star skill is going to be very, very strong. If you can get her, you know, maybe 2 or 3 attacks without being attacked, 3 turns, and she'll get her a 30% boost, which can be pretty helpful, but I mean, it just depends. Now, the second skill is actually really good too, because it disables buffs and debuff skills, so that will allow, you know, some units like Gowther, where he's gonna basically disable your attack skills, you can disable that normally. So that's really good as well, because when you look at Gowther, this second skill is a debuff skill, which you can fight against with the Elizabeth, so can be pretty helpful if you play it that way. Now, it depends on what kind of units you have, what kind of team you're running on PvPs. That's basically the kind of teams I've been seeing playing PvP, so that's just what I'm ranking it at. So the next part, I would say, like, Hellbrum is really good for the boost, so he will give you a good boost, you know, for your, I think it's like attack, I believe. Yeah, it's attack related skills, so he'll boost up your attacks. Now, he can be helpful for a support type unit. Now, I wouldn't say to use him all the time though on PvP, but you might see him here and there. You'll see the red one more than the green one once the red one comes out, of course, but he can be pretty helpful. You can run this unit like probably like maybe once or twice and just see how it goes for you, but I wouldn't really recommend using him because he doesn't really do much based off like attack or anything like that. So like for boost wise, I would say yes, but for everything else, not really, because when his passive goes on, he heals for 100% of defense when the hero's HP reaches 0. So I don't really think that's kind of good enough for PvP personally, so I wouldn't really rank him higher than A. Then you have these other units. Now, Meliodas, he was good. He was good for sure. But basically, when meta changes, you're not going to see much of the unit at all. So with Meliodas being taken out, I put him in A tier just because he can still do damage. He will do damage, but, you know, I would probably put him in S tier just because of his full counter. But you have, you know, other units that can actually take away buffs and stuff. So I would probably drop him back to A tier because of that reason. Now, this could be controversial. You guys can talk about this in the comments below where you would put him. I leave him in A just because I don't think after, you know, maybe a month or two after Global comes out, you know, this unit's not gonna really be that crazy. So I leave him in A tier. If you guys want to talk about it in the comments, let me know. I'll try to debate you guys. You know, I probably would be agreeing with you if you guys do say something very, you know, very close to what I would rank him at. But that's where I put him. Merlin. Now, Merlin, she's good for freezing, right? So that's all she's really there for. So with her, if you want to talk about her, I mean, you can. But as a unit herself, I mean, she's only going to freeze. She can disable recovery skills. That's actually very useful. That's the same thing that, you know, Arthur does, because that's what he does for his first attack, disables recovery skills. So I guess that could be useful. But the thing is, her main thing is freezing. If you can, of course, get a 2-star, 3-star freeze, you can do some pretty high damage if you attack with another unit that does damage. So you could do a combo with her, but I think she'd be taken out pretty fast in PvP. Her passive only increases pierce rate by 10% per each ultimate move gauge orb, so she's only helping herself. It's the same way with Green King. He only helps himself. But I don't think this would be as useful as people think she would be. But I mean, she could disable attack skills, and she can disable recovery skills with her first skill and her ultimate, which can be pretty helpful. But I personally think, you know, with what the meta is right now, I don't think she's gonna be that helpful. So I left her in A tier. Then you have, you know, units like Gustav does the same exact thing as Merlin, so I left him there as well. The other units, you're not gonna really see them much in PvP, but they can be pretty decent for PvP. I don't think I should put all of these units in here just because you're not going to see them much. This is for like units that you will see all the time. So for a tier list, if I had to make a full tier list, I mean, I would probably put units like way below everything, you know. That's just me though. Like, I don't want to make it too like crazy, just because I know a lot of people like, you know, say something bad about it. But like units like you're not going to use much, you're going to use like that unit, no, you're not going to use him. Jude, no, you're not going to use him. You know, these kind of units, from C tier. And then other units, I mean, it just depends on what they do. I don't want to go too in-depth with these units just because I know that they're not going to be that useful in PvP. But the main units you're looking towards for PvP are the God tier units, SS tier, S tier, and maybe A tier if you have to use them. So for what it is now in global, you used to see SR, you know, this SR red bond up in S tier or SS tier just because he could take away ultimate gauges, but you're not seeing him anymore because he gets dropped down just because newer units come out, meta changes, stuff like that happens in games like this. So this is the units I would say that would be really good for a tier listing. Now, like I said, this is very controversial. You guys can say the same things in here. If you guys have different opinions, let me know in the comments below. I don't want to go too crazy, but this is the units I would say. Now, run this for this team if you pulled Galland and Gowther. If you didn't, I would still run a team like a mono green team, like run a Jericho, run Bond, run Merlin, and then I would say run Gowther. So these four right here. A mono green team like this could possibly get you really high in PvP, especially if you're in Masters 5 or in Champions 5, and you kind of want to keep on going. You can run that. But like I said, you're going to see a really big difference in a team like this right now, which you're going to see these two units, or these 4 units. Why isn't it moving? These 4 units right there. These 4 units are going to be very, very good in PvP. Just because Arthur, his boost, that boost right here, is going to basically allow Gowther to still be used, and then using Gowther, ranking up Galland's cards, as well as ranking up, you know, Arthur's cards, you can do some pretty good damage as well. So yeah, that's pretty much the tier listing I have made for a PvP, you know, current PvP on global. I'll put it as like current global April team or something like that, just so you guys can understand that it can change a lot. So this is a specific type of PvP tier list I've made right now. Like I said, comments below if you guys have any other ways of, you know, making tier listing, and I'll try to talk to you guys in the comments below. But if you guys did enjoy, drop a like on this video. If you guys are new to the channel, you guys have already, make sure to subscribe, and then comment down below if you guys are excited for more Grand Cross videos. And let me know in the comments below what you guys think of a tier list like this, or where you guys would rank units in here specifically that you guys have seen. But like I said, I've only seen units from A and God tier up that have been used here and there in PvP. But yeah, that's gonna do it for today's video, guys.